Welcome to today's webinar. And this is Access to Technology, Project Ideas. I'm Cami Griffiths, the Executive Director and Co-Founder of Community Tech Network. I'm so happy you could join us. The agenda for today's session here is specifically around ATT, the Access to Technology program, which is funded through the California Department of Aging. I'm going to talk about the program goals that were set forth through by CDA, and then go over some sample digital access and training programs so that you can get an idea of what the possibilities are, and then dig into what CTN is currently doing for a few of our partners. And then I'll showcase some of the curricula that we have available, talk a bit about the Affordable Connectivity Program, share some resources, and then leave it up for Q&A. This shouldn't take a full hour, so hopefully we'll get through the main content in a half hour if you need to jump off. So access to technology is to meet the needs of diverse adults 60 years of age and older, and people with disabilities, so that they can gain connectivity and technology so that it reduces their isolation, increases social connections, and enhances their self-confidence in navigating digital and online resources. Hopefully you're all quite aware that older adults are one of the populations that are least likely to be connected, and people with disabilities. And so the state of California has done an incredible job of making resources available to close this digital divide. So I'm going to talk a little bit about digital inclusion. You might have seen something similar to this with 3 legs. We like to have a 4-legged stool when we talk about digital inclusion. And that is that you can't just close the digital divide by creating more internet. As much as an internet service provider would like that to be the truth, it just isn't. You also need a device, which seems quite obvious, and you need training, which is critical, and ongoing tech support is helpful. So if we look at the range of how we might do this work, I'm going to talk about low touch all the way to high touch in these 4 areas. So for internet, at the very least, you could share information about the Affordable Connectivity Program, which I'll talk more about in a few minutes, and other low-cost internet options. So most major ISPs have a low-cost option available, and since the Affordable Connectivity Program, they've kind of aligned those two. So that at the very least, you could do that. All the way to having a program where you have staff or volunteers that are assisting people in signing up for ACP or signing up for the low-cost internet. For people who don't speak English, getting on the phone and talking to a customer service person might be very intimidating, and this is not something that they might opt in to do themselves. They just might get frustrated, fearful that they're getting upsold, and that's one reason why some folks are not online already, but they might not know that these programs exist. So somewhere in the middle is providing temporary access, providing hotspots or devices that have mobile internet. Let's jump down to devices. So what we have at the low touch, again, just sharing information. Where can you acquire low cost devices or donated devices? There's lots of really interesting programs out there that are reselling refurbished devices. You might be able to get some donated devices from a local university and get those refurbed through a local volunteer or a nonprofit that does that work. So that would be one thing to do, all the way to using these funds to purchase devices and distribute those out to eligible community members. And somewhere in the middle is to temporarily give access, right? Loaning them out through the library. So down to training, sharing information where you can go to get free or online tutorials, all the way to being the agency that's making these classes happen and making sure that it's available in the preferred languages. And somewhere in the middle is having someone available to take phone calls or answer emails, or perhaps go in person and help people with some of their training needs. So we see folks who have devices, they have a smartphone, but they only use it as a phone. They don't know how to use it to surf the internet or to do video chats. So that's where the training piece is absolutely critical. And lastly, for tech support, that once you get connected to the internet, get the device, have some basic skills, you're always going to run into something. Websites get updated, apps get updated, things break. So having some sort of tech support available is really awesome. So now I'm going to dive into Community Tech Network's programs, just a few of them. We're small but mighty, we're getting bigger. We're celebrating our 15th year anniversary in a couple of weeks. And so these are just some of the bigger partners that are more kind of focused on government funding. So I'm going to dive into those right now. We've been working with San Francisco since 2010. We've provided paid and volunteer trainers at a network of senior centers throughout the city. And that was very robust and, pretty awesome. And then COVID hit. So then we had to shift our gears and make our training virtual, which we created a program called Home Connect. I'll talk more about that soon. And so now we kind of do a combination of in-person folks at the labs, virtual training through Home Connect. We also have something called digital coaching, where we recruit, train, and support volunteers who are working one-on-one online with folks who have a device, have internet, have the basic skills to get online and do kind of that coaching. And then we've also been playing around with having tech support navigation. That means a volunteer who's agreed to answer any kind of tech support issues. This is the chat program. You should have already heard about it, if not had a box of iPads sitting in your office for a while. But Connections Health Aging Technology, this is run by the California Department of Aging. They had distributed 4,000 iPads. CTN is one of 3 vendors providing training to, and we're doing 500 seniors statewide. And we're providing the training in English, Spanish, Cantonese, Mandarin, and Vietnamese. So this is a really awesome program that we've been fortunate to work with CDA on, and probably, we haven't gotten word yet, but we'll probably keep doing this training as part of their digital connections. So digital connections is 15,000 iPads being distributed statewide, but we don't have confirmation on that yet. So fingers crossed. So the California Public Utilities Commission has provided funding since 2015 throughout the state, specifically for digital literacy and devices. I have a link further on in the presentation, and I'll also make sure you get a copy of this PowerPoint. So this funding has been made available to housing and other community-based organizations. So this is a list of agencies that hired CTN to deliver digital literacy training on site before COVID, and then during COVID it was all virtual, and now we're in that kind of in-person and virtual setting. Super exciting stuff. It's mostly basic skills, but we have seen a desire for more intermediate level skills, which is really good news, that we're helping people get online and then moving them to be more proficient. And then once they become proficient, they want more and more and more. So it's all really good stuff. So now we're talking about access to technology. The County of San Mateo has hired us to help them run their ATT program. And what we're required to do with them, let's see, I'll go to this next slide and then come back again. So we are purchasing and providing devices to the eligible clients. We're working through a vendor that will purchase them, set them up, ship them out. And then we're helping with their internet. So the tablets that go out will have a SIM card with T-Mobile service, but we're also going to help those learners sign up for ACP and get their own low-cost internet set up at their homes. And we're providing training, both our agency is through this program called Home Connect, and our partner agencies, which I'll talk about in a minute. And then we're making sure that we're addressing the language needs that are out there, that you can't expect someone to learn how to, a senior especially, learn how to do something in a language that they're unfamiliar with. So we make sure that all of our training material is in the language that the senior, that the learner needs, that the device is in the language that the learner needs, and that all the communication is in their language. And so we're going to do outreach to the key government agencies, our core nonprofit partners, and then referral partners throughout the county. So really kind of spreading our message all over the county, with the target of, going back to this, of serving, at least talking to or in messaging 5,000 older adults or people with disabilities, so they hear about the program. And then of those, that 450 are being referred to our Home Connect program, and that we're helping at least 68 sign up for the Affordable Connectivity Program. And then in total, that will serve 1,700 duplicated clients. So we expect that someone will come in for Home Connect and then possibly join a class later. So we hope to have a pretty big impact in San Mateo, and our partners are listed at the top. So Senior Co-Siders, Daily CD Partnership, Peninsula Family Service, and Puente de la Costa Sur. I've never said that out loud, so I apologize, I don't speak Spanish. But they're agencies who have a deep connection to the community, and they already have an understanding of who might need access and who doesn't, but they also have connections to other agencies. So it's really, and we're just getting started. So those core partners will be doing workshops on the ground. And then together we'll be offering ACP enrollment events. And then I already mentioned the tablets and virtual one-on-one training, that is Home Connect. So I'm going to talk about Home Connect first and then jump back to this other capacity building work. And I know I talk really fast. I'm so sorry. I get excited about this. And it's really bad when somebody has to do closed captioning while I speak. So apologies. So Home Connect is the program I mentioned earlier that we created because of COVID. We're now offering it to partners from all over the state. So with San Mateo being one, Vivalon in Marin, and then San Francisco. And then hopefully we'll get a contract with the County of Sonoma as well. So with Home Connect, like I mentioned, we're procuring the devices, we're purchasing those through a vendor, the vendor setting them up, shipping them out with a learner booklet that's about 70 or 80 pages in color in the language. And so what the learner gets, once they're referred, they get a call from the trainer who will do an intake, and then they get the booklet and tablet shipped to them. And then the trainer calls them back, and the training happens over the phone with the trainer having a screen share program. So the trainer gets to see the learner's screen. So you don't have that issue of learning on the same device as you're trying to see the instruction on. So it's, I think it's a really good solution for those who are brand new to using a device and aren't sure how to toggle between two different programs. So I'm going to jump back to DigitalLIFT, which is the name for our capacity building work that we've been doing this work for 15 years. We now want to help other agencies do their own similar types of programs, recognizing that you might be new to this and the idea of taking on an entirely new program might be overwhelming. So maybe you just want this one piece, like training digital navigators, or perhaps you would prefer to just have an understanding of program management. So we have a series of modules that are already available online. And so this course will be offered to anybody across the country, but we really want to focus on the ATT counties first, that this is a really great opportunity for you to kickstart a program for your agencies, for the agencies in your county who are either doing this work but struggling because staff turnover means you don't have a person who's trained, or that they're not quite sure how to do it, or they think, well, we have to create curriculum and translate it into these languages and it's just too much. So we want to be considered a resource for any initiative that's trying to get older adults and people with disabilities connected to the internet home with a device and training. And every community is a little bit different. So we really want to support you where you're at, where your community agencies are at, and helping kind of build that leadership from the ground up. Okay, so just a snapshot of some of the curriculum that we've already created in some of the languages that are currently available. And this is all stuff we've created because of our work with San Francisco or CPUC. So we've just kind of built this over time. And there's a lot of content on the side, but this just goes to show that of the multi-session curriculum that we've created for these different types of devices, that we have those then available in these different languages. Just gives you a snapshot of what we already have available. I've talked about the Affordable Connectivity Program. Hopefully you've already heard about it. It is a $30 a month subsidy towards people's internet service. If you're on a tribal land, that is $75 a month. The first step is to understand your eligibility. So there's links here that you can follow if you want to learn more. But essentially, if you're on any certain programs, free or reduced lunch or SSI, that will qualify you for ACP. The issue is some people live in areas where there's, say, one internet service provider and they're not an ACP vendor. So it's a tricky situation to make sure. Don't spend your time filling out ACP paperwork if you don't have access to an internet service provider that's participating. But it's a great program, saves people lots of money. It also provides a one-time discount for the laptop or computer device. So really great program. It is not funded in perpetuity, so it will come to an end at some point, but hopefully some version of this will be available for a while. So this is my last slide before questions, and I think I went through that in record speed. I always like to share additional resources that if all of this is like, wow, this is so interesting and so exciting, I just want to dive in and learn more. I'm sure that's what you're thinking. Here are some things to look at. So link to the California Public Utilities Commission, the page that talks about their funding, which the next deadline is coming up July 1st. There's a webinar that I helped conduct a few months back, securing funding to get older adults connected. So there's a link to that. The National Digital Inclusion Alliance, NDIA, has a host of resources. They're amazing. A listserv with lots of great people on it. And then the leading agencies, so Oats and Senior Planet, they're nationwide, as well as Cyber Seniors, they're out of Toronto, but nationwide. They're the two vendors that are also teaching, providing training for chat. And then the other two links I provided, Generations Online has created a really great app that we install on apps that helps people practice tapping and swiping and pinching and all those kind of screen gestures. And then Oasis Connections has programs all over the country, and they also have some free resources, specifically a course on internet safety and security, which is amazing, and in a couple different languages. And lastly, there is a new group, newish group called the Bay Area Digital Inclusion Coalition that's currently facilitated by the San Francisco Tech Council. It's a group of the 9 to 10 Bay Area counties, people who are both in Health and Human Services, the AAAs, agencies like CTN. We get together monthly to talk about this stuff. So that's a great resource as well. With that, it is time for questions and answers. If you want to, you can unmute yourself and just ask the question, or you can put it in the chat. Or if there's no questions, you get a whole 40 minutes back.
Cynthia's asking for a link to the recording. And of course, we'll be sending that out to all of our participants. So not to worry. Is your program manager, if maybe you could forward it to her if you get the link, or you could send us her information and we could forward it to her.
Absolutely. I'm curious if anybody's willing to share if they've done some thinking or already committed to how they're planning to spend their money. We've heard from a few groups that we've reached out to. Oh, they're already going with, I can't remember the name of the program, but I like to hear what other ideas are out there so I can put it in my bag of tricks. Is anybody willing to share where they're at with their ATT thinking?
And Cami, could you talk about the CPUC funding going forward? I believe there's going to be another couple rounds, right?
There is. Let's see if I can navigate.
I think that would be good information for people to have if they wanted to go that route, if their county doesn't have funding, or if the funding is being spent entirely for building out the broadband. But you know, there is money, there should be money in each of these ATT grants for training and devices, I believe. So it's something to investigate. But the CPU, the California Advanced Services Fund, is a wonderful vehicle for getting this to your learners, your clients.
That is correct. So the next deadline, July 1st, is probably going to be the last. They've done this fund 3 times now, and they might continue doing it. I'll put a link in the chat. It's definitely something to look into. It helps pay for devices. Some internet connectivity, like you can put in a wireless network in your in a public computer center, but it won't pay for the internet for the individuals, like an ongoing monthly payment.
And I believe it has paid for computer labs in the past, right? For setting up computer labs, which may be an interest, you know.
Yep, absolutely.
Cami, the information you gave was really quick and could be a little overwhelming. If somebody was interested but not sure of what their needs were, what would be the next steps?
So at this point, if you are really overwhelmed by this information and you just need a day or two, we Carol, Lauren, and myself are able to take calls to brainstorm how what you've heard here might apply to your county. Or if you want to bounce ideas off of us with no expectation that you're going to hire us, that's perfectly fine too. I just care that this money gets deployed in a way that will help people get online, which is the intent of it. So what I would hate to see is that no training is delivered because you're not sure how to do that, or, so whatever choices you can make, it's tough, right? Because the clock is ticking. This has to all be spent by the end of the year. So you can reach out to us directly. We'll set up a call for an hour, brainstorm some further ideas, or give you feedback on what your current idea is. One of the counties said they were going to go with a vendor. Really can't remember the name. I'd have to look in my email. But this vendor sells tablets that are preloaded. They're structured for, they're very simplified, and there's no mention on their website about training on those devices. So I would just encourage you, if you're looking at a vendor who's providing devices, then to understand what their training capabilities are and what they can do for the different language needs that you might have.
And I would also say, if you do want to maybe think about pursuing something with us, just know that we can turn around agreements and timelines pretty quickly for you.
And if it's that you want to deploy a core of digital navigators, let's say college students who have diverse language needs, but they need to be trained. We've been working with the University of San Francisco for many years in their service learning program. So having us train those as digital navigators who are then deployed out in the community or providing virtual. So there's lots of ideas. What I like to start with is your community, what your needs are, where you're already at, who's taking a lead. You might have a really great ecosystem going on and they just need a little extra support. So yeah, it's really a matter of kind of case by case. There is no one size fits all. So if there aren't any more questions, we will absolutely follow up with a link to this recording and a copy of this PowerPoint. And please do follow up and ask questions. And even down the road, 6 months from now, when your paperwork's already in and you're doing the work, we're going to be here. we can help out later on if you need it. There's going to be more money coming from the federal government through the Digital Equity Act. So we can all expect to see money coming probably early next year. So if you haven't already started to follow, I'm sure you've got all the time in the world to do this, but the broadband office, the Department of Technology, they're organizing sessions where you can be part of building out their digital equity plan. And I really hope that more people who are serving older adults are part of that conversation so that we make sure that there's funding for this population. Any other questions or comments? If you're doing something really awesome and want to brag about it, now's the time. Anybody? Well, I do appreciate your time, and I think we should be able to get this turned around pretty quickly and back to you either today or by Monday.
Thank you very much.
My pleasure. Have a fantastic day.
You as well. Good weekend too.
Yeah,
Thanks.
absolutely.
Thanks.
Thank you, everyone.